Good morning. Thank you for joining us today, everyone. Today is a day we're going to learn about Twitch. So for those of you that don't know us, we are Social is a global socially led creative agency, and we have 16 offices globally. Being a social agency, that means we look at a lot of different social platforms, and Twitch is arguably one of those platforms that for many has gone under the radar. So today we're going to be introducing you to the platform, to the people that use it, and how to best work with those people. I'm Charlie Cottrell. I am the Group Creative Director and Head of Editorial in the London office. I know nothing about Twitch, so luckily I've got Brett Phipps with me here. And Brett is a senior editor who looks after our international Activision client and is a proper gamer with a whole career in games journalism. So he will be our guide through all things Twitch. I'll be jumping in at various points to ask questions, but also if you have questions, there will be time to look at them at the end. So please do pop them into the Q&A box and we'll come back to them as we go through the deck. And just finally, we will be sharing this deck after the event. So all the kind of detail and links will be in there for you. We'll send that through to you afterwards. So Brett, over to you.
Thank you. And again, thanks to everyone for tuning in. Hope you're all safe and well. So yeah, Twitch, it's a platform which is very close to my heart because again, I'm a massive nerd. So please, if I go off on a bit of a rant or I speak in what seems like another language, please feel free to stop me at any point and I'll wind myself back a bit. So we'll just go through the agenda very quickly. The state of play is what we'll open with, which will include the mission statement from Twitch's CEOs and people who run the platform itself. We'll then go into some statistics which show how big a platform it is, especially when compared to its competitors. Then we'll look at the platform features, because what I appreciate is if you're coming to the platform fresh, it can be quite overwhelming. It is not the most user-friendly interface for people who are new. Then we'll look at some of the biggest moments that have happened on Twitch and the most viewed videos from there that have been clips that have been taken and shared across every platform going. Then we'll look at some of the activations that have been done through Twitch and have been incredibly successful. Then we'll look at ways in which influencers monetize on the platform, how they make money off of it, which will give some insight in terms of what they are on the platform for beyond just content creation and the love of doing it. Then we'll look at ways in which brands can advertise on Twitch. One of the benefits of Twitch compared to others is the ease in which it creates a connection between content creators and brands. And then we'll look at what we believe is the future of the platform as it's looking to diversify beyond what is perceived to be just a gaming platform. So we look at the state of play. So this is a statement from the CEOs of Twitch, and everywhere I've looked online, there have been different forms of statements, but it's come down to this core sentiment, which is at Twitch, our mission statement is to provide the best social video platform created by our growing community where creators and communities can interact safely. And the safety element is a very big part of what Twitch wants to be. So we've seen on many video platforms and anywhere online really is that safety is a big thing that different platforms can fall foul of, particularly when it comes to, comment sections, the types of content is put on the platform and the moderation that happens online. And it's something that Twitch is very prominent with and it's quite good at doing, particularly in terms of how it cultivates positive communities, and we'll come on to that in a second in terms of how communities form on Twitch. I just wanted to give a quick definition of what is streaming more than just video game live streaming. So video game live streaming is an activity where people record themselves playing games to a live audience online. So it's slightly different to video uploading where it's not live, it can be highly edited and cut together. This is just live video streaming. So it's raw. Sorry, Charlie.
Oh, sorry. In this kind of section then of streaming, who will be Twitch's main competitors?
So that's good to ask because we're actually going to run onto some of the stats when it comes to its main competitors. Because when it comes to streaming, the thing is, there's competitors, but Twitch is quite comfortably the lead when it comes to its rivals. So if we just go back a sec, if we think about YouTube, which has its live platform, if we think of Mixer, which is Microsoft and Xbox's platform, which is, although they're investing quite heavily into it, it still hasn't taken off. They recently signed Twitch's biggest influencer, Ninja, to an exclusive rights deal to stream on their platform, but even still, they're not taking off. And then
Right.
Facebook has just launched Facebook Gaming, so we'll come on to those in just a second. I just wanted to give some stats as well about how prominent game streaming is. So this is from We Are Social's Global Digital Report. So 1 in 5, so 20% of all internet users between 16 and 64 have watched a live stream with other people playing games.
Right.
And what's interesting from my time as a games journalist was the amount of people who have shifted their behaviors from playing video games to watching them be played online, especially in times when
Right.
people perhaps don't want to buy a video game because the investment can be quite a lot, or they simply watch live streams rather than going online for reviews or critiques of certain products. So particularly when games aren't out yet, right? They want to watch those being played to make their own opinion and whether it's a purchase option for them or not. So game stream really has become the go-to place for people to make purchase decisions.
Right. So
So
20% of all users are watching games.
yes, yeah,
Wow,
exactly
that's
that.
massive.
And it blows away every other statistic we have on here. So whether it's purchasing a game add-on or downloadable content, so that's when you if you buy a game and then there's additional things you can get for said game, that's only 7.6%. Played a game on a streaming platform, so that would be rather than buying the game and owning it, and you can play it without internet connection. This would be you're streaming the game directly from a server. That's less than 10%. Sharing content yourself, uploading it, that's 12. And as you can see, esports is
Yeah.
14%. So the thing about esports is that's very closely tied to live streaming. So those two go quite hand in hand.
So I
Coming
guess
back
the
to your,
takeout here is like, sorry. So I guess the takeout
sorry,
here is just how many people this is. Like, if you think about how
yeah,
people use the internet, this is a fifth of that audience. Right.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, which will help when we come on to the actual stats. So to your earlier question, um, Charlie, in terms of market share, so Twitch owns 72.2% of all gaming hours streamed online.
Right.
So you can see here we've got Twitch, and then we've got YouTube Gaming, and we've got Mixer, who are the three big competitors in the field. As you can see, the gap between first and second is quite astronomical, and then second to third is even bigger, is really big as well. And the reason for that is when Mixer launched, it had quite a damp launch. There was no real big influencers. There was no value in them coming from Twitch to other platforms and splitting their audience, because if Twitch has already existed for quite a significant amount of time, it's very hard to get people to shift and bring all their audience with them. So this is streamed. So coming back to our earlier definition, this is live streaming of content, watching hours as they're being played. So then if we come on to hours watched, so whenever you stream content on Twitch, you can then watch that after it's been played live in a different section of the app. So Twitch still owns 65% of that market share as well. And if you look at the numbers here, that's 3,000 million minutes. So again, trying to think of that in my head, I can't work out how much that would be in terms of total time, months, years, whatever that would be. It's 3 times more than YouTube, which YouTube is then double of Facebook Gaming, and then Mixer's just 2%. So it's crazy how much, not only how much time total is being watched, but how much Twitch makes up of that total.
It's the big guy.
Yeah, pretty much. And then in terms of actual people on the platform, there are more than 17 million daily active users. So every day, 17 million people are logging on and watching Twitch. And what's the interesting thing about those daily active users is the average watch time per user is around 90 minutes. So it's not like other apps where people log on and people check in for 10 minutes, then log off. They're actually committed to long form video viewing on that platform because of the type of content that's being streamed on there. There are 4 million content creators per month as well. So there's a wide breadth of people to tune into, and then 46 billion minutes watched per month as well. It's also a hugely valuable market app as well. So it's estimated at 1.54 billion compared to YouTube Gaming's 1.46. And again, this comes back to the common misconception that whenever you think online video, the immediate thought is to go to YouTube, whereas in fact, Twitch is the bigger and more valuable prospect that we see. So I want to just come back to the app itself and think about what is Twitch. So a bit of a history thing here is that it launched initially in 2011 as a spin-off of Justin.tv, which was an online video sharing space as well. But it became so successful that in 2014, Justin.tv basically folded and got absorbed into Twitch itself. And then in that same year, Amazon, obviously seeing the value of Twitch and its rise in prominence, they bought it for $970 million. And then in 2016, Amazon, now with Twitch, under Twitch ownership, acquired Curse. And now what Curse um, is a service where you can purchase content through Twitch. So it's direct connecting peer to peer and buying things that way. So it was a way easier way to improve the purchase journey, which is why you can see some of the services that have improved within Twitch itself. So how Twitch works. So what you can see here, and again, we'll just come back to the slightly overwhelming nature of Twitch's user
I
interface.
don't know where to look.
Yeah. So just so you know, this is not, I've actually taken two images and spliced them together to give you an overview. I don't want you to think that it's everything cut in half when you go onto the thing. The website is categorized by games, or as you can see, and we'll come on to this a bit later, it's not just gaming that's on Twitch. There are a couple of categories here that aren't specifically games. And then once you click onto one of them, they'll be categorized by different streamers, which you can see in the bottom half of this image. And then people can follow streamers, and then they'll get notifications when they go live. And then when you are watching that stream, there is a chat section where you can talk about the events going on in the feed or different things like about the game itself. There are different ways you can support your favorite streamers, which again we'll come on to in the monetization section, either through direct contributions, subscriptions, or there is an in-app currency called Bits, which again we'll detail a little bit later. So again, the user interface, this is it. This is how it looks when you're watching a stream. There's a million different things going on, but what I wanted to do was show this to you in its raw form before I broke down the key things that you should pay attention to when you're looking, especially if you're thinking about partnerships with particular influencers and which ones you think will add value to your brand. I still want you to, start talking it through and get a good sense of what it looks like.
So this is what I
So
would see if I was playing.
if you was watching a stream, yeah, this
I was
is
watching.
every
Right.
stream. This is what it looks
Yeah.
like. The person streaming may put their webcam feed at different points in the screen, but this is certainly
Right.
what you would see. And like I say, it looks like someone's throwing a bucket of paint at the wall, and then whatever's stuck is where it is. But yeah, there is sense in the anarchy. So I've put this key together here, and then like I say, I'll talk through it because it's quite a lot. I'll start with the top left, and I'll work clockwise around. So the green box in the top left is the name of the content creator, and as you can see, the purple tick is verification, and then the red box to let you know they're live now. The middle section where it says home, videos, clips, and followers. So videos, as I mentioned before, when a live stream is over, Twitch automatically saves that video and it puts it in the user's video section. So if you miss a live stream, for example, I'm based in the UK, if one of my favorite streamers is based in Los Angeles, then the time difference means that I may not catch all of their streams, but I can then watch it after the fact. Granted, I may not be able to join in the live chat, but there may be something they're playing that I'm particularly interested in. Clips is a section where, so me as a viewer or even the content creator themselves, there may be particular moments within that stream. So a stream could be 3 hours long, it could be 5, it could be 1. There may be a few seconds or a minute of that stream that I really, really enjoyed, and I want to take that and I want to share it online, or the influencer may want to share it online. You can go into the videos themselves and literally clip that moment, and then it becomes a highlight, and that's where they get saved, is in that clip section. The white box where it says follow in the purple box and subscribe in the grey. Again, this is where you can choose to keep an eye on this person. So follow is no monetary commitment from the viewer. So you just follow, you get a notification when they go online, you can keep in touch in the sense of when things are happening with them. Subscribe is something we'll come on to more detail a little bit later, particularly when it comes to people who are on Amazon Prime. But subscriptions, there are three tiers of subscriptions. Again, we'll come on to in a little bit later, but they do require uh, paying for them on a monthly basis. And again, that's a big way in which influencers monetize their basically their product, pretty much. In
And
the
do you
top
get
right,
different features? Sorry, do you get different features unlocked if you've got a paid subscription to if you're
yeah, yeah.
okay?
So there tends to be very little difference between tier one and tier three if we're talking about increasing investment. There'll be very minor differences, and it's very much presented to viewers as how much do you want to support the streamer. But there will be some minor differences between one and three, but nothing in the sense of like compare it to Patreon, for example, where tier one will be you don't get anything other than maybe a shout out,
Yeah.
and tier five you may get exclusive content. Um, there's no drastic difference in that sense. The If you see a crown in the upper right, in the light green box, that is to acknowledge that someone. So this is screen grab from my account. So I am a Twitch Prime member because I have Amazon Prime as well, and that crown acknowledges that you are a Twitch Prime member, which again we'll come on to in terms of what that grants you. So you can click that, and then
Okay.
you can view all your membership benefits. The blue box adjacent to that is to what we mentioned before, get bits, which you can buy with real money and then transfers to the in-app currency. The big orange box is the stream chat. Coming back to what we mentioned previously in terms of the safety element of Twitch itself, is many streams you can only join the chat if you are a follower. Some will do it where you can only be a subscriber in order to do the chat. And as you can see at the bottom of the chat, it says followers only chat. So I
Right.
can't just come into this as almost an imposter and then write something negative and then come away from it. I have to have some sort of commitment or investment in this chat in order to engage with the community that exists within here.
Yeah. And is that one of the
The
things that makes it safer then?
That's yeah,
That
yeah, it definitely does. And again, depending on the streamer, they can make that as restricted as they want to. So you can be a subscriber only chat where again people have to commit monetarily to join in the chat. So that feels like you want to be a part of that community in order to chat.
Yeah.
But this one is followers only, so I just have to click that purple box, and again, that doesn't require any sort of real commitment. But there's still that sense of I'm following this person for a reason. So there is some sort of connection there, unlike YouTube, where I can literally comment on any video simply because I'm on the platform, and I can
Yeah.
do so anonymously as well. So we have the pink box next to the stream chat, which is the influencer or creator's video feed, which is them as they're playing the game. So you can see their reactions and their commentary as well. What will happen is you can see there's some animations around them as well, which the creator can custom make as well. What you will sometimes see when you're watching a stream is when people subscribe to that streamer, there'll be some animations which may look like, as you can see, it looks like a phoenix that will appear on the screen. And again, that's to give that sense of validation to people who are subscribing and give them that sense of reward for what they're doing.
You get
Um,
like a little shout out.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and they'll say thanks for subscribing. There'll be that big pop on screen, and not only does it reward the person who has subscribed, but it'll in some way encourage other people to do the same thing. And then we come to the bottom. There's the red box and the yellow box. Now, the red is the number of concurrent viewers. Now, Swag, this creator, is a very prominent creator on Twitch, so he has nearly 21,000 concurrent viewers. Uh, and then the yellow box is total number of views to date. So that's every video this person's ever done. They've had nearly 2 million views. So that's, again,
Right.
a huge amount. And then the purple box is the name of this current stream. So it's a huge name. It's very SEO led. So the big thing there is drops enabled, which we'll discuss a little bit later when we come to the most viewed um, streams by category. And then all the different things that he has put on there to try and encourage more people to watch the stream. I appreciate that was a
So
lot.
I was just going to say, like, there's a lot going on here. So, like, people are able to take in all of this information. They're watching all of this information when they're watching their streamer, and they're interacting in all these different elements.
Yeah,
Does
I
that mean
think
that?
Sorry, try to go on.
I was going to say, like, what does that mean if we want to work with Twitch or a creator on Twitch or their audience? What does that tell us about, the kind of complexity of things we should be doing, or the different kinds of ways we could be working with them?
Yeah, I think the interesting thing about the audience, it shows that they're skilled in the platform. They know what they're coming here for, and also um, they're able to prioritize what they want. So obviously, when I come to the stream, my first priority is the feed. It's the influencer, it's the creator, and then it's the chat. Then you come. So we've done activations with Activision previously, obviously the account that I lead on, where we want to amplify influencer feeds on our platforms, and then our priority is to go into the stream, take some clips, put them on social. So there's lots of different
Right.
ways you can use it, and that's something that um, users of Twitch are also aware of. They're multifaceted. They're aware Twitch is not their only social platform, right? They'll know
Yeah.
that feed has come from Twitch. It's gone onto Twitter. Then we're coming back to Twitch to watch more content. So it's an audience that I think people misconstrue as being sort of naive or youthful, and it's not. They're adults. They're skilled at multiple social platforms, and clearly it's a complex system, but they know how to interpret all these different features as well.
Yeah.
So we'll just drill down into some of the other platform features that I briefly touched upon. First being Amazon Prime. So you can subscribe to Twitch Prime on its own, but if you subscribe to Amazon Prime, you're automatically rolled into Twitch. So what it does get you are all these different features. So you get ad-free viewing. So normally, if you're a non-subscriber and you hit on a stream, you'll get the pre-roll ad, much like you do on YouTube videos. And like I said about subscriptions, so the starting price for all subscriptions is normally a £5 a month. But what Amazon Prime or Twitch Prime gets you is one free subscription per month. That doesn't auto enroll. You have to do it every month. So if you commit to one every 30 days, you'll have to resubscribe to that person. You get free game content as well. That can be in-game items for specific games, or also get free games as well. They tend to be for PC because Amazon's currently making a very big push in the gaming market. They've bought a load of game developers, so they want to try and get an audience to play games on their platforms as well. And Amazon has huge capacity when it comes to video game servers as well. They get savings on physical games from Amazon, like you see in Prime membership deals as well. You get exclusive emotes, which we'll touch upon a little bit later. You get expanded chat color options, which again, when I say these things, they think, so what? Why? It doesn't mean a lot outside of the platform, but it's one of those things that it's building an identity for the user. It makes them stand out from the crowd. If you come into this as a regular new user, you can fall amongst the noise, right? Whereas if you subscribe to these streamers or to Prime, there's something that makes you different from the rest. You get the Prime chat badge, which I showed you before, which is the crown. And like I say, you get the free in-game content and the monthly games as well. But the interesting thing that I wanted to talk about as well is that I've talked a lot about games in the start of this, about Twitch, but one of the biggest things is that gaming is obviously the thing that gave Twitch its huge rise. But we're seeing quite quickly that things other than gaming are just as important to people who come onto the platform. So there's this category called Just Chatting on Twitch, and it's a section where literally anyone can come onto the platform and just talk to their audience. They can respond to comments that come in the feed. They may want to do some sort of talk, some sort of lecture about what they're going through at the minute. There's also new categories regarding music, where people can play an instrument. There's also podcasts, which can be hosted on Twitch. We've seen a rise in a load of people from other industries, so celebrities, like comedians, podcasters, and artists come onto the platform. Quite a few UK people have come on there recently, particularly during COVID. See
Have we
cosplayers.
seen more people
Sorry.
generally using it during COVID?
Yeah, that's what we've seen a rat since in the first few days when COVID really hit. There was around a 15% rise in users. So
Right.
if you think about those numbers from before, how astronomical they were, and you think about 15% on top of that again, that's
Yeah.
quite significant. Um, So again, coming back to the just chatting section, gamers can also use this space when they're not playing. So I've seen some gaming influencers come into this section almost like a break. So
Right.
they still want to be on Twitch, but they don't necessarily want to be playing a game. And again, celebrities have capitalized on this space. I've seen people from the in-betweeners just host on here. I've seen comedians, Limmy, he has a stream. So it's definitely a space where people are looking to move into. So these are the most viewed games and categories from the previous 30 days. So again, you can see Just Chatting is second.
Right.
Valorant we'll talk about in some detail in a second because it's quite an anomaly in terms of how huge those numbers are. But what you can see here is there's quite a even mix between new and legacy. So you've got the Fortnite, you've got Grand Theft Autos, you've got the Call of Duty in number seven. But what I think surprises people when they see what the most viewed games are is you've not got the likes of FIFA, which I think was 13th. NBA was around 15th. There's no racing games here. There's nothing which people would consider big in that sense. And that's because, again, coming back to what Twitch is and Twitch being such a big focus on community, is that these legacy games like World of Warcraft, Dota 2, CSGO, League of Legends, they've got such huge followings and such huge communities that that's why those are still being viewed by so many people so often, is that they are committed to that game and they will continue to watch those for many, many years. And it's very, very hard for other things to come in and supersede them, at least for the long term. So when a new game comes out, they'll definitely rise to the top, but it's whether or not that audience is they're sticky enough for people to stay with them, which is why you see, peaks and then shorter tails than these sort of games. So Valorant is a reason exactly why I want to talk about that. Is Valorant is a new PC game that isn't actually out yet. It launched a beta around the time we took this data, which is very similar to Counter-Strike Go, which is the one in number five. The reason why those numbers are so big is multiple reasons. First one being obviously the game isn't out yet, so everyone wants to see what it's like and see if it's something they want to invest in. The second is that as a way of promoting the game, Riot, which is the one who's publishing and developing the game, they included in-game drops on streams. So what in-game drops are is the longer you view a stream, every hour or whatever time they will set on it, you'll receive a reward. It doesn't matter what stream you're watching, it depends. As you saw a few slides ago on swags, there's loot drops or in-game drops. And what that means is every hour you'll get a ping, excuse me, on that stream. And that means that you click on it, and when you get the game yourself, you'll get a skin, a particular gun, wherever it may be, and you get rewarded for watching that stream. Hence why there's so many hours viewed, because they're encouraging people to stick around on a stream for an hour. I've done it myself for Call of Duty, for example, where they recently launched in-game drops. So you watch a stream for an hour, I got a watch in the game, I got some
Oh,
skins. And it doesn't necessarily equate to active viewers. They can have it on in the background and just wait for the reward and then click on it and then that's it. But it does mean that obviously you do obtain great
right.
figures like this. And it's a way of advertising in Twitch without necessarily going direct to influencers. You just create this system where you create a reward in a game that's popular, and then it creates a huge impetus for a lot of people to go and watch these streams. So this is just what you've seen previously on a chart. And I think the interesting thing here again is if you look at Valorant, which is the anomaly, compared to all other games combined outside of the ones listed, it's bigger as well. And we can see Just Chatting is a healthy slice of that as well. And as I mentioned, FIFA 20 is the blue chunk in at top at around 11 o'clock. And it's quite significantly smaller than Just Chatting, for example. Fortnite is there, as we can see. And as I mentioned, the yellow bar at the very top is music and performing arts, which is a growing one, which is doing quite well.
Right.
Animal Crossing launched shortly around the time we took this data.
And
And
that's people
throughout-
playing music.
say that again, sorry.
Is that people playing music?
Yes, yeah, and it was
Right.
something I think we spoke about is I think during COVID everyone's decided to become a DJ, so it can be
Right.
that as well.
So we've got not
Um,
just gaming, we've got conversation, you've got comedians streaming, there's people DJing, there's people playing music. It's kind of
yeah,
expanding out broader than perhaps we might have thought.
yeah, exactly that. And like I say, there's cosplayers showing how they create their art and things like that as well. Whispers. So as I've mentioned previously, the chat, when you have thousands of viewers on any given stream, chat can be quite insanely paced. It can be super quick. You put in a message and it's gone before you've even seen it. So Whispers is Twitch's version of direct messaging. Um, it's not commonly used. It's people prefer to keep things in feed on the public forum. But there are certain uses to whispers, particularly if you are moderating a chat. If someone's behaving in a way that's not becoming to how you want to run the feed, you can drop them a message and try and moderate the chat. If you are running a competition, you can drop in a private message to negotiate sending prizes, whatever that may be, or people can just go in there and share inside jokes. It has its uses, certainly. Now, it's a world unto itself. Emotes on Twitch, they've basically become their own language on Twitch. There are thousands of different emotes, particularly because each creator can design their own and upload them into their subscription models, which Charlie mentioned earlier as a reason to subscribe. Um, there's a tracker for how the most popular ones used globally, and this can fluctuate, especially the top ones when new ones are created and they become quite popular because what emotes are in Twitch is they take on their own meaning, much like in the way that we use smiley faces, we use laughing faces, they take on a very different meaning in Twitch. So the top right here is called Kappa. Now, it means sarcasm on Twitch. And the person in that picture is a person who, back when Justin TV launched Twitch, um, built the chat room, built the chat
Right.
functionality. And now every other one, I mean, I have no idea. So we'll look at some of the popular ones. And as you can see, the name of it sometimes has no direct correlation to the use. The name is just the name of the emote, and then you learn the use. So if you are looking to, use Twitch as a platform for any sort of activation, it's one of those crucial things where learning the language of Twitch is a huge part
Yeah.
of making sure you come into the platform with some sort of authenticity and understanding of what people are saying there. Because there'll be some times where entire conversations can take place with barely a word exchanged. It's all these emoji. So it's very important to understand what people are actually saying on the platform, even
Wow.
if it doesn't seem like they're saying much of anything. Obviously, they're particularly used for reactions. So it's very good to know if you are doing something, if it's landing with an audience,
Right.
because
Yeah.
you may see endless PogChamp, for example, when you put something out there, you may think something's going wrong, but it's actually not. So it's very useful to have an understanding of these, and particularly if you want to create your own, they need to have this sort of look and feel to them. They can't be too complex because in the chat feed they're minuscule in size, so they need to communicate something without people needing to sort of squint and look, especially if people a tablet or something like that.
Right. It's literally the faces.
Yeah, yes, it's and when you so I went into Twitch on the back end, just looked at how you have to upload your own, and the pixel count is very, very small. You upload three variants of it in slightly bigger sizes, but even then, relatively, they're not very big at all. So there's two key things you can do in Twitch, which are really, really useful for a content creator. One is raids. So this allows a streamer to send their viewers over to another channel, which is a really good way to boost the viewership of a secondary channel. Um, it's a really good way to build awareness of an up-and-coming influencer, for example. So say you hire someone as part of a new team, if you're an influencer and you're building a brand, you can send them over. Or it's a really nice way to do acts of altruition, acts of kindness, which we did for the Uber Eats Bring It campaign, and it came off really, really successfully. And you can see an example of that in this screenshot. The reaction of the woman in the bottom right is what we saw when we sent Mini Minter over to her channel, and her numbers just climbed and climbed and climbed. It's something that's really, really nice because you can not only see Mini Minter when he sends his fans and followers over to her, but you can see her reacting in real time. And you, again, as you can see at the bottom, it's done for a simple raid command, and then you just all of them go over, and then there's just this moment of spontaneous, what's going on, because they don't actually know, it's not planned, and it's a really, really nice thing to do. And then the flip side of that is hosting, which is when you bring an influencer can host a stream with another user. So if an influencer wants 24-hour coverage on their feed, it allows them to log off if they've been working for a long period, or they just want to bring their other people onto their stream and keep their community talking. It allows this to happen. It keeps the community active, and again, you can also do watch parties as well. So we wanted to touch very briefly on creators. We did have a few more people in here, but I thought it was best to focus on perhaps the biggest creator now that, again, Ninja has left. This man here is the biggest streamer currently on Twitch in terms of stats. Some of the stats at the top are just simply who he is and what he plays Fortnite predominantly. The reason why he became so big is he got onto Fortnite very early on, and he became part of the FaZe clan, which, again, it sounds like I'm speaking another language, but it's just a team of people who play games competitively. In total, he's got 2.2 million hours watched, 8 million followers. One thing that when you pull these stats is some people reveal the number of active subscribers they have and some don't. So while he's got 8 million followers, it doesn't actually show. Down at the bottom is 19,600 subscribers. So again, followers is the unpaid, 9,600 is subscribers, and then of that, 8,630 are paid because there may be 11,000 of those are done through the Amazon subscription model. 203 million views, and then his highest peak viewers is 195,000. So all these numbers are really big and hard to comprehend, but they're astronomical when it comes to if we think about single activations that you could achieve. And then we come on to monetization. I want to briefly touch upon this in terms of looking at ways that creators can monetize their content in feed. There's two different ways that you can mainly monetize your content. The first one is through the community, and the second is through brands and ads. So this way, we'll briefly touch upon through the community. So the first, as we've mentioned before, is subscriptions. So we won't delve too much into that. The second is donations. So again, one of the good things about Twitch compared to other platforms is they're very agnostic when it comes to allowing content creators to publicize and promote their other revenue streams. So the screenshot on the top right is beneath the feed that you saw in other screen grabs. As you can see, this is Syndicate, for example, who's a UK-based influencer who plays Call of Duty predominantly. You can see they've got a tip jar where anyone can just throw in pennies and pounds, whatever they want, without any need to subscribe. He's got a partnership with Scuff, who make gaming peripherals and accessories. And then he's got his YouTube channel, which he promotes. And then there is a subs leaderboard at the bottom left. Now, this comes back to that sense of what we talked about before, where when people subscribe, they get that sense of reward that they get when they get the acknowledgement. There is a thing that a lot of influencers do where you can also gift subscriptions to other people.
Right.
And the leaderboard is who's gifted the most subscriptions to someone else. So you can see, which is quite, and this is done every month from most people, from what I've seen. Syndicate's the top; he's doing it himself. But then some people can gift 1,000 subscriptions a month, which is when you think about the base subscription is £5. That's a lot of money. And then we come on to so this is a thing where in the chat you can give bits to people, which is the thing that I spoke about before, which is the in-app currency. I think it works out to about so 100 bits is around £3. I might be misremembering the thing, but you can do it through the chat, and it's like tipping someone for whatever it is that you appreciate they're doing in the stream. So rather than paying with nothing tied to it, it could be someone does something really cool in a stream and you want to acknowledge that with some sort of reward, and their emotes as well, as you can see in the bottom right. I think that adds some sort of uh, something more to it. And then we come on to the ads and brand partnerships. So as we mentioned before, if you are a subscriber, you don't see ads, but for those who aren't, you will get pre-roll ads. And then brand partnerships. So bottom image is Dr. Disrespect, who's also one of the biggest uh, streamers on the platform. He has a partnership with some of the developers of certain games, so he's committed to playing games for a certain number of hours per month or at certain times of the year. And he may also be sponsored by the likes of, I don't know, Pepsi, or like we saw before with Syndicate, he's got a Scuff partnership. So it's things like that that allow people to make more money that isn't dependent only on community. But you obviously have to reach a certain level of prominence on the platform and in the industry to get that sort of acknowledgement, which is why the work of subscriptions and donations and bits is the way people get started, and you have to gain followers first. These are some of the more funnier moments that have happened on Twitch. Now, when I say to you how many views some of these moments have got, these two moments, it might boggle the mind because in one of the videos, literally hardly anything happens, but it just gives you an idea of the type of things that people enjoy on Twitch. It's not necessarily, uh, a huge moment in Call of Duty. It's not a massive moment in Fortnite. It's simply things that people enjoy, and again, that sense of shareability with other people within the community. So I appreciate that sometimes playing things on presentations doesn't necessarily work very well. So if the sound doesn't play great, I apologize, but also you'll be getting the deck after this presentation. So feel free to watch it then. So this first streamer, Jurassic Junkie, gets a fright. This has 3 million views. So this live streamer, he's playing a game called Outlast 2, which if anyone's played that series, it's frightening as anything. You are a reporter covering some bizarre goings on at mental asylums, and all you can see is through the night vision lens of a video camera. And then as you're turning around, things are going on. There's certain terrifying moments in the game, and the things that you are hunting aren't human, and they're quite creepy. So he's playing this game, and then this happens.
Makes me really appreciate streaming normal games now, where I can pause and smile, enjoy it. You okay?
And then, as I said, there are moments when nothing happens, and it's still really funny. So this is called The Awakening. It's the most infamous moment on Twitch. Most viewed, 3.7 million views. This guy, he wasn't a big streamer. He had hardly any followers or anything like that, and he just fell asleep on a stream. And then he wakes up to realize he's got 200 viewers. Now the clip's 2 minutes 28. I'm not going to force you to sit through 2 minutes of a man sleeping. We'll skip through the bulk of it, and we'll just get to the moment when he wakes up.
Poor guy.
I appreciate he does nothing for the gaming stereotype as well. Again, 3.7 million views. I can't explain it. So this next section is we've got a few examples of activations that are done through Twitch. One is the first one is a completely spontaneous. It's not even an activation really. It's more like a movement that happened on Twitch that spawned an activation beyond that. This was one of the biggest things that got coverage everywhere, pretty much. It was called Twitch Plays Pokemon. Now, it was a social experiment where anyone who was viewing this stream could input commands in the chat, and they would then translate into an input in the video game, which was being live streamed, and then the character in the game would then behave in such a way that would respond to the commands. Um, this this algorithm, this API, was built by a single person who is still anonymous. We don't know who built it, um, but the results were that we got over 55 million views. It has the Guinness World Record for the most participants for an online game with 1.16 million players. And then somehow, which I still can't believe, is that the game was completed after 16 consecutive days. The actual stream, Twitch Plays Pokemon, still exists today, and they've continued to consecutively play subsequent Pokemon games. So it started with Pokemon Red, and then they've moved up with every new release and continue to complete them. And off the back of this and how successful this was, it inspired Old Spice to launch its own version of it with Nature Adventure. So they literally replicated the same thing by sending a man into the woods, and they set up a load of different spontaneous moments in there, and then people were encouraged to put in commands or requests in the chat, which this person would then go and do. And this one, as you can see, had huge numbers as well, with 2.65 million total views, with 29 years of footage watched. Don't ask me how many minutes that is, because I can't tell you. 88,000 uniques per hour, so that's concurrent people, and then 1.4 million comments with 1,900 from just a single person. You can tell how engaging this content is if a single person's putting in that many comments.
Yes.
Yeah, and then we come on to, not to toot our own horn a little bit, but our own Uber Eats Bring It campaign, which we touched upon earlier, which again, where we raided other people's channels using prominent content creators on the platform. We used two influencers, Manny and Mini Minter, and what they would do is they would begin playing games on their own stream, and then once they reach a certain threshold of followers, they would then send them over to other people, some smaller influencers who, again, they were just of streaming. They just love playing games, and they wanted to share that with an audience of relatively few people. So they sent all their followers and gave them a huge audience, and then we saw huge boost in followers, huge boost in comments on their streams. We're currently not at a point to share the stats, but we look forward to doing so once we have them. But we do know that obviously there were 15 million streams rated, and as I mentioned before, the woman in the top left image, she actually cried during the stream. And when I was watching the stream myself, there was one guy who was playing Formula One, and he was playing it with a wheel. And when his stream got raided, he literally pulled over to the side of the road, which, as cute as it was, that was blasphemy for me. You have to keep driving for me. This activation, Wendy's. Now, I won't play the video because it's like a 2-minute video of the case study, but it is worth a watch when you receive the deck. There was a campaign within Fortnite of basically pizza versus burgers, and you choose your side and you fight for them, basically. Wendy's discovered that the burgers within the game, there's a restaurant called Dirt Burger. The burgers were being kept in freezers, and now Wendy's biggest thing is that all their food is served fresh. So what they did, without any money in investment, they didn't pay for influencers, they didn't pay for advertisement. They just created a character that looked like Wendy and went into the game, and they didn't shoot anyone. They didn't go in to win the game. They just simply started smashing up all the freezers and streamed it on Twitch. And this garnered a lot of attention, and it even got some influencers themselves jumping on the bandwagon and doing the exact same thing. And as you can see, it got 1.5 million minutes watched. It led to 190% increase in Wendy's mentions across social. And the interesting thing about that is it led to competitor brands mentioning them on social, what they're doing. Like KFC did it. I think Burger King mentioned them. So got acknowledgement from competitors in such a good way. It even got acknowledgement from the industry as well, where it won the Social Influencer Grand Prix at Cannes Lion. And after this activation happened, it even got recognition from Epic, the developer of Fortnite themselves, where they removed the freezers from the restaurant chain in the game as well. So you can see that even when you may not necessarily want to pay an influencer to do an activation, it just takes a moment of insight and understanding of what a community is doing and how they play and how they behave to make something that creates a huge amount of conversation.
And can I just ask you, how do communities given that it's so specific and it's so like tight, how do communities respond to brands getting involved, especially brands that aren't gaming related, like Wendy's or Uber Eats?
Yeah, I think that's the interesting point. I think Wendy's touches upon it in this case study is that before Wendy's got involved, there were a few brands who did try and get involved, and then they just did it sort of at a superfluous level. They launched in-game skins, or they tried doing like uncle jokes, where it was sort of they would. I think KFC was another example who did like a chicken skins joke instead of actual in-game skins, and they tried to do it, and it's very obvious when someone's trying to hop on the bandwagon rather than actually has looked at the community, invested time into it, and understood why and what it is they do and why they're doing it. If you come into a space like Twitch and you try and impose your tone of voice or your messaging approach onto the people that already exist there, you'll very quickly get found out, and you'll soon find yourself alienated from that community. You very much
Yeah.
have to come in there and sort of have something to say, but say it in such a way that the people already there talk. Um, but it can't be try hard, it can't be fake, it has to be very authentic, and that takes time. You have to, take the time to invest. You can't just throw money at a situation and, for example, force an influencer to do an ad read in a very structured way and say, this is how we want you to say it. It's like, no, take the time, understand and learn what it is that works well, which is why case studies such as these are really worth looking at and understanding, okay, why did this do well? Don't just try and replicate, because like I said, as we've seen from the emotes section, Twitch is very much a world unto itself, much like a lot of micro communities can be. And not only that, but we're talking about Twitch in general terms, right? We're just talking about Twitch as a platform, but within that platform, there's so many communities within that. You have to really understand where it is you want to go within the platform and really focus on that space, which is kind of what happens with Wendy's. They focused on Fortnite. With the Uber Eats campaign that we did, we thought about heroing the smaller users who really wanted, we wanted to give them a chance to shine. And if we look at the Old Spice thing, they took a moment on the platform that worked really well and did something off of that, and people understood what it was they were doing. So I think there's all different things you can take from each one, that a moment that works really, really well.
Okay.
Just looking at advertising now. So again, this is ways that in which brands can come onto the platform and invest within it. In terms of generating revenue, we see how much money Twitch can generate. Again, it made 230 million in 2018, and we don't have the final figures, but it was on course to deliver 300 million over the course of 2019. So that's around like a 28% increase, I think, off the top of my head. Don't know exactly, but it's a fair wedge. The first one here is called the bounty board. So what you can do as a brand is you can place targets for influencers to hit within activation. So you may have a new product launching, like a movie or things like that, and you may want to encourage people to watch the new trailer to get excited for it. So you may say, right, I want 500 trailer views, and then different influencers can come in and go, right, I will take that. The good thing about it is that streamers can choose what bounties suit their audience. So rather than you going, right, I have no idea about Twitch, I don't know who the big influencers are, it allows Twitch to basically become your influencer agency for you, and it takes away a lot of the legwork in terms of understanding who's who. You simply put the board up and then see who takes it. And then there's some really good case studies on Twitch's website actually around bounty boards. There are 3 trackable events. So when it comes to working out what sort of content you want to put on the platform, it's good to understand that they need to be quite short and quite sharp. So the trackable events are 30-second views, 2-minute views, and starting. So again, choosing what you want to gain from it is important. And again, where it's available. So right now it's available in the US, Canada, UK, Germany, and France. So if you think about where your audience is, you need to really match it to availability.
Can I just, sorry, before we go, can I just say, so let's say you said, I want to achieve 500 views, and then the influencer kind of takes that job down off the virtual jobs board and says, yes, I'll deliver you those 500 views. Then do you pay them up front, or do you pay them after they've delivered you that 500 views, after they've hit their target?
I think they receive their payment once they take it off the board, and once they complete the watch along, once they confirm they've completed it, because what happens is on the UI they get a widget, so it shows that
Yeah.
they can't just take it off the board and not do it. So it's to make sure that they take it off the board, a widget appears, and once they start the trader view, they hit that widget. Once they've completed it, then it's to validate they've actually completed the task, basically, and again to make sure you stay within your budget. You cap the amount of activations happen within your thing. So it's not like you put a board up and you only want, say, 100k spend, but then 500,000 people take that board. There's a certain number of boards that people can take, and they cost a certain amount. You've also got the homepage carousel. So if you go on the homepage of Twitch, you've got all the streams that are going on, or like ones that are recommended for you at the bottom. And then you've got the homepage carousel at the top with streams happening right now as well, which are more featured. So if you partner with a smaller influencer who may not have the prominence of the Tifus that we saw earlier, the syndicates, Dr. Disrespects, but you want to give them more prominence and feature them, this is a good way of doing it on a lower budget. And then the last one is the homepage headliner, which is ad takeovers, basically. And again, Twitch is very brand friendly on the website in terms of how to do this. It gives you a lot of good information in terms of how to make your advertising stand out. Twitch has a very, very clear color palette with the purples and the blacks, and it gives you information on how to make your adverts eye-catching without necessarily disrupting flow or upsetting the user, the view. It's really, really useful. So I recommend looking that over if you are interested in advertising on Twitch. So again, there's different ways you can do it. With the images, you can have the two-end images as placements as well. The last thing I want to touch on is charities. So when we started working on this, it was sort of in the midst of the beginnings of COVID-19, and as a response to that, again, Twitch is very quick to react to changing global landscapes, and they launched a dedicated page for anyone or any companies who are looking to do charity live streams. And as a result of that, we saw a huge number of activations going on the platform. Twitch partners with a company called Tiltify, so it allows you to house all the donations on a single space, and it allows you to learn the best practices for creating charity streams on the platform. And they wrote an entire blog post for people looking to donate to causes during the pandemic and create these streams. On the right hand side, you can see a couple of news articles, pulls from some of the good causes that were done. So there's also every 6 months, I believe, there is a charity called Games Done Quick, which is a group of people. It's a bunch of users. It's not even necessarily prominent streamers, but they all get together. It was cancelled because of COVID, the latest one, but I watch it every time religiously, where they speed run games, which just means you're trying to complete a game as quick as possible. And they always raise money for Doctors Without Borders. And I think to date, I don't know how long they've been going on for, but they've raised $22 million for Doctors Without Borders. So there is a lot of good that can be done through Twitch as well, if you're looking to move into that realm as well. So it's a very user-friendly, again, for that sort of movement. And finally, I just wanted to touch on what we think the future of Twitch looks like. And it comes again back to what we consider to be going beyond gaming and the idea of intimacy. I think a huge part of the Just Chatting section is how big it's growing. And there's a huge diversity of what Just Chatting encompasses, from the cosplaying to, we've seen the new podcast section, we've seen people just on there talking to their users, we've seen people sharing their insights on particular sections. So a diversification of what Just Chatting actually means in new subsections of that, I think will be a really, really important space for people to go into, and again to break down that perception and barrier of what people think of Twitch as just a game streaming platform. And it's not. It's becoming a really positive space for communities to come together and share their thoughts and feelings around whatever is going on at the minute. And I think that Twitch is a really good company in terms of reacting to current events and sort of providing a space for people to talk and share. And the fact that it is a live video platform means that the space for it to house content that isn't necessarily, there's always that fear online of advocating for negative or potentially harmful views. And I think the fact that you can't put up a heavily edited or cut together piece of work means that it's a lot more difficult to create that sort of content there. And it's obviously got its challenges. Every platform does, and it's far from perfect, but you feel a lot more comfortable on a space like Twitch than I do on some other spaces. And the fact that there is so much there, something for you as an individual, I think, is what's way more interesting for me when it comes to Twitch. And I do feel way more connected when I'm on there than I do with other platforms. And I think that's it from me. Just to recap, as we've seen from the previous slides, we've seen that there is a huge opportunity on Twitch, and the data just shows how many people are using the platform, particularly compared to its competitors. And there's a relatively low monetary barrier to entry, be that for creators themselves. And again, what Twitch does when you look at their website and their FAQs is it actively advocates encouraging people to gain more followers. It has a reward system to move people up to like advocates, to partners and things like that. And as we just spoke about, the platform is becoming a lot more than just gaming. It's allowing people to hone their craft, to share their skills, and to just connect with an audience as well, and to find people like them. The key way to being relevant to an audience is to be authentic, is to understand what the audience is like and what they care about, and more importantly, how they communicate on that platform. Emotes being a big part of that, but still, it's one of those things where you just need to make sure that you have a huge understanding before you even think about going onto the platform, be that creating your own channel or becoming a part of someone else's.
Yeah, that seems massive.
Yeah, it's got a really good influencer interface, as we just spoke about, and it's got a huge amount of ways in which it encourages influencers to make money, not just through Twitch, but in the bottom, allowing the donations, sharing your partnerships, donations, anything like that. And as we just mentioned, there's still challenges, but it feels like a safer space compared to other platforms.
It seems like there's a lot of potential for brands to get into this space. I think both in terms of just understanding that it's not just a space for gamers, that more people have come onto the platform even since the beginning of this pandemic. Those people probably won't go away. It seems like there's a lot there to kind of keep them in that space. And it might be, I don't know, do you think Twitch is going to become one of the main players and have more broad mainstream appeal in the kind of the realms of Instagram and Facebook?
Yeah, and I think we come back to that average watch time that each user has, where it's 90 minutes. It's really sticky. I think that was the other surprise when we look at somewhere like TikTok, where people are on the app, I think it's 8 times a day, and they spend an hour on the app per day. It's things like that where people are committed to a platform such as Twitch. So if you get the right content on there, they will stick around for a long time, and you can see that in the amount of minutes watched in those 3 activations that we shared, as well as you get a huge figures on whatever it is that performs successfully on there, and down to the individuals as well, their watch times, their number of users. It's crazy numbers to think about.
Wicked. We're running just over an hour, so I think we might be tight for questions. But what we are going to say is we'll send the deck round, and within that deck is like more detail and more links to follow to pick up on some of those points that Brett talked us through, and also the links to the case studies so you can get a good sense of what happened and what the reactions were. I don't know whether we want to follow up with some of the questions maybe, or how we might do that. But let's take that offline. Maybe we can put a Q&A at the back of it, and then we can answer some of those specific questions there.
Yeah,
this has been great. Thank you everybody who stayed with us for 6 extra minutes. Good stuff, Brett. And thank you, Brett, for making what is a really brilliant, quite complex platform digestible. I think like a really exciting prospect for all of us in the future.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for